Madara Uchiha, his power could level mountains and shatter armies. With his Rinnegan, he controlled tailed beasts, summoned meteors, and bent reality to his will. A warrior who rose from the fires of war, Madara's strength made him a god among shinobi, feared by all and respected by none. His ambition, to reshape the world itself at any cost. In this video, I will tell you his entire life in detail from start to finish. Now let's get into the video. Early life. Early life Madara Uchiha was the man who tried to force peace upon the world not through understanding but through control. His story began in chaos in an area where every breath was paid for in blood. Born during the Warring States period, Madara entered a world consumed by endless conflict where the cries of the dying were more common than laughter. The ninja clans fought not for nations or ideology but for contracts, land, and survival. There were no villages, no peace, only battlefields that never slept. For the Uchiha War was not a passing season, it was the air they breathed, the rhythm of their existence. Madara was the eldest son of Tajima Uchiha, the clan's battle-hardened leader, and his destiny was decided before he could walk. From his earliest memories, he knew only the scent of steel, the weight of kunai, and the cold silence that followed every victory. Madara and Izuna grew up as children of the battlefield. They trained endlessly, competing not for glory but for survival. Every skirmish against the Senju clan hardened their hearts further. The deeper one's love ran, the more unbearable the pain when it was torn away. Madara loved fiercely his brothers, his clan, his family, and that love, twisted by loss, became the fire that fueled him. His chakra was already immense as a child, wild and vast, reflecting his will. Even before awakening the Sharingan, he was a prodigy, defeating full-grown enemy shinobi while still a teenager. To his clan, he was the future. To his enemies, a nightmare in the making. Yet within the chaos of blood and fire, fate had prepared something unexpected. During a rare moment of quiet between battles, Madara met a boy by a river. The boy was strange, cheerful, determined, and disarmingly human. His name was Hashirama. Neither of them knew the other's clan, nor did they care. For once, they were not Uchiha or Senju. They were just children. They skipped stones, laughed, and talked about everything their world had taken from them. Family, innocence, dreams. Both had lost brothers. Both were tired of death. Together they built an impossible dream, one born from exhaustion and hope, a world where children would not have to die in battle. It was the kind of dream only those who had seen too much could believe in. But dreams like peace are fragile. One day the truth came out, Hashirama Senju. Madara Uchiha. Names cursed by generations of hatred. The revelation shattered their brief peace. They were heirs to clans that had slaughtered each other for decades, and friendship between them was nothing short of treason. Madara was forced to choose, and he chose duty. To protect his clan, he buried his heart, turning his back on Hashirama and the boyhood dreams they had shared. That decision awakened something inside him, a power born from pain. His eyes, once dark and human, burned crimson for the first time. The Sharingan had awakened, its tomo spinning in reflection of his heartbreak and resolve. Years passed, and the two met again, not as friends, but as enemies. As the river that had once connected them now divided them with blood. They fought again and again, each battle ending the same way, stalemate. Madara could not defeat Hashirama, and Hashirama could not bring himself to kill his friend. Their rivalry grew into legend, their clashes shaping the very landscape. Where Madara's flames scorched the earth, Hashirama's wood release would rise to heal it. They became two sides of the same coin, destined to oppose, yet forever bound. Over time, both men rose to lead their clans. Hashirama sought peace through trust. Madara sought it through control. When Hashirama extended an offer of alliance between the Senju and Uchiha, Madara hesitated. He wanted to believe, but the world had taught him that peace was a lie. Then tragedy struck once more. His brother Izuna was mortally wounded in battle by Hashirama's brother Tobirama Senju. In his final moments, Izuna entrusted his eyes to Madara, choosing his brother's strength over his own life. Out of self-preservation, Madara then used Izuna's eyes in order to gain eternal Magekyo Sharingan and restore his deteriorating vision. With this new power, he waged one final assault against the Senju and was summarily defeated rather than killed Madara to bring the era of war to an end. Hashirama offered to kill himself if it would stop the fighting. Madara was moved by Hashirama's gesture and finally extended to peace. Founding of Konoha. They named it Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves. For a time, it seemed their dream had come true. Children played in the streets instead of training for war. Families rebuilt their homes, and laughter returned to the land. Madara and Hashirama stood side by side, not as enemies, but as founders. Together they created the foundation for a new world, the world of shinobi nations. But peace built on compromise rarely lasts. Beneath the calm surface, distrust still simmered. Hashirama believed in equality and sharing power among all clans. Madara believed peace could only survive through dominance and control. To him, fear was the only deterrent to conflict. The stronger the village, the longer the peace would last. Their visions began to clash once more, just as they had when they were boys. When other nations began to form their own hidden villages, Hashirama sought alliances through diplomacy. Madara, however, saw weakness in compromise. He believed that true peace required a single will, his own. Then came the moment that would break him completely. Desperate for understanding, Madara turned to the clan's ancient secrets. Deep within the Uchiha's sacred shrine, he found a stone tablet said to hold the truth of their bloodline, a message left by the Sage of Six Paths himself. Only those with the Sharingan could read it, and the more advanced the eyes, the deeper the truth revealed. But what Madara did not know was that the tablet had been altered centuries ago by Black Zetsu, a manifestation of Kaguya Otsutsuki's will. Through deception and manipulation, the text had been twisted to lead the Uchiha toward despair, guiding them toward a single conclusion, that peace could only be achieved by casting the world into an eternal dream. It spoke of the cycle of hatred, a curse binding Indra and Asuri, the sons of the Sage of Six Paths, whose spirits had reincarnated throughout history into the descendants of Uchiha and Senju. In this revelation, Madara saw not coincidence, but destiny. He believed that he and Hashirama were the modern incarnations of this eternal conflict. To him, the world's endless suffering was not a result of men's choices, but of fate itself. And if fate was the true enemy, then only someone strong enough to break it could bring peace. That realization marked the beginning of Madara's transformation from visionary to zealot, from dreamer to god. The path ahead would turn him from a founder into a ghost, from a leader into a myth. His dream of peace would evolve into something terrifying, a world without pain, without loss, and without freedom. Rinnegan Awakening and Eye of the Moon plan. But as his years dwindled, Madara understood he no longer had enough time to complete his plans. Because of that, he transplanted his Rinnegan into a young Nagato without the boy ever realizing it, intending for Nagato to one day use those eyes to bring Madara back to life. For Nagato to accomplish this, however, Madara needed an agent to act on his behalf and guide Nagato toward that ultimate goal. Madara waited, connecting himself to the demonic statue to keep himself alive until a suitable candidate appeared. During this time, Madara kept a close watch on Konoha, searching for someone who could take his place. During the Third Shinobi World War, he found a severely injured Obito Madara, used Hashirama's cells to rebuild Obito's destroyed limbs, and embedded a forbidden individual curse tag in Obito's heart as a failsafe should Obito ever betray him. Until that day, Madara began shaping and corrupting Obito. He had Kiri Nin kidnap the girl Obito loved, Rin Nohara, and seal the Three Tails inside her. He then manipulated events so that Rin would die at the hands of Kakashi Hatake, Obito's closest friend, while Obito watched. Driven into despair, Obito abandoned his old ideals and pledged himself to Madara. Madara then revealed to Obito the story of the Sage of Six Paths, the 10 Tails, the Eye of the Moon plan, and all the techniques Obito would need for the future. As his final act, Madara left behind Black Zetsu, what he believed to be a manifestation of his own will, to further guide Obito toward fulfilling the plan. With that, Madara disconnected from the demonic statue and, with his dying breath, entrusted Obito with his name, Madara Uchiha. Fourth Shinobi World War Countdown. Acting under Madara's name, Tobi moved the Eye of the Moon plan into its final phase by triggering the Fourth Shinobi World War. Before the war officially started, Kabuto Yakushi approached Tobi with the intent of forming an alliance. When Tobi refused, Kabuto resurrected the real Madara to prove that he knew Tobi was not the true Madara, effectively forcing Tobi to agree. Tobi reluctantly accepted the deal and Kabuto desummoned Madara. Fourth Shinobi World War Climax. During the Fourth Shinobi World War, Kabuto decided to use Madara against the allied shinobi forces and used Mu as the medium for Madara's reincarnation. When Madara first became aware of his surroundings, he initially believed he had been revived by Nagato's outer path, Samsara of Heavenly Life Technique, but he soon realized he had instead been brought back through the impure world reincarnation Kabuto. Speaking through Mu, introduced himself and explained recent events in the world as well as Tobi's current actions. After pointing out that he had restored Madara to a state even stronger than his prime, Madara tested his rejuvenated body by cutting through the 4th Division, drastically reducing its numbers. The division's initial efforts to stop him failed as Madara protected himself with Susanoo. When the 5th Kazekage, the 3rd Tsuchikage, and one of Naruto Uzumaki's shadow clones combined their attacks, Madara was forced to activate his Rinnegan and absorb the technique. Realizing his opponents were far too dangerous for him to keep holding back and relying only on basic ninjutsu and taijutsu, Madara pulled down a massive meteorite from the sky. When the Kazekage and Tsuchikage managed to stop it, Madara summoned a second meteorite, causing both to crash and devastate the 4th Division. With most of the division wiped out, Madara questioned Kabuto about how far off-plan Tobi had gone. Because Kabuto knew little about the plan, Madara decided to verify things himself and attempted to summon the Nine Tails, only to discover that it was sealed inside a Jinchuriki, Naruto, even knowing the Naruto in front of him was only a clone. Madara postponed his original objective and chose instead to test his new abilities, specifically Wood Release, Nativity of a World of Trees, which the clone barely managed to counter. Madara then moved in to finish off the remaining 4th Division, but was repelled by the arrival of the 5th Hokage, the 5th Mizukage, and the 4th Raikage. The 5 Kage joined forces against Madara and pushed him from the immediate area. By the time he returned, Naruto's clone was gone, leaving the 5 Kage as his only opponents. They fought for some time, with Madara matching and surpassing their combined efforts. When he was struck by the Tsuchikage dust release, detachment of the primitive world technique, Madara's armor was torn away, exposing the implant of Hashirama's face on his chest. Madara lamented the legacy of Hashirama that these Kage had inherited. Unimpressed by their abilities, particularly those of the Hokage, Hashirama's granddaughter, he then created 25 clones of himself and had each one activate its own Susanoo. So successfully that he is nearly sealed, Madara finally becomes impressed by their combined display, prompting him to summon his perfected Susanoo. Before he can use it to kill the Kage, however, his Susanoo begins to fade and Madara is engulfed in light. He realizes that Kabuto has released him from the impure world reincarnation elsewhere, and that his soul is being pulled back to the afterlife. Madara reacts by performing the hand seals to cancel the impure world reincarnation contract Kabuto holds over him, allowing him to return to his immortal body without any further interference from a summoner, now free to act however he wishes, and already bored with the Kage. Madara decides to go find Naruto and reclaim the Nine Tails. The Kage try to stop him, but after defeating all 5 of them, Madara departs and reunites with Obito, who is engaged in battle with Naruto, Killer Bee, Kakashi Hatake, and Might Guy. Madara notices the demonic statue beginning a premature transformation into the Ten Tails and harshly scolds Obito for being too reckless. After Obito returns Madara's gunbai, Madara creates a wood dragon in an attempt to capture Naruto and Killer Bee to complete the 10 Tails. At one point, he successfully restrains Bee and begins draining his energy, but is overwhelmed by Guy's daytime tiger. The 10 Tails revives before Madara can recover, forcing him to adapt quickly. He and Obito leap onto the 10 Tails' head and link themselves to it, giving them control over its movements. Their 4 opponents resist, but stand no chance against the 10 Tails' overwhelming power. Before the 10 Tails can finish them, however, the combined allied shinobi forces arrive to reinforce the battlefield. Ino manages to seize control of Obito momentarily, redirecting the 10 Tails attack. The Alliance successfully immobilizes the 10 Tails, turning it into an easy target. 10 Tails undergoes a new transformation just before their attacks connect, freeing itself and allowing it to block the incoming strikes. Although the immediate threat is handled, Madara realizes another problem. The allied forces are coordinating far too effectively. Madara and Obito command the 10 Tails to target the distant allied HQ, a task that takes multiple tailed beast balls due to their limited control, something Madara blames on Obito's failure to revive him correctly. Even though the Alliance's central command is destroyed, they are given one final battle strategy in the time before the 10 Tails' attack lands. Madara and Obito attempt to thin the Alliance's ranks before they can reposition, and when that fails, they try to block the coordinated counterattack. The combined forces break through, separating Madara and Obito from the 10 Tails. With the beasts now out of their control, they are forced to fight the Alliance directly. Obito eventually disappears into the other dimension, leaving Madara to fight alone. During Obito's absence, Madara senses that Hashirama has been revived somewhere else. Excited at the prospect of battling his lifelong rival again, Madara eagerly awaits his arrival. When Hashirama finally appears, he sends only a wood clone to confront Madara. Since he is preoccupied restraining the 10 Tails, Madara decides to wait until the real Hashirama is available, but when the clone continues fighting, Madara defeats it effortlessly. Madara later senses Obito's return and decides to activate one of his failsafes. Using the black receivers implanted in Obito, he attempts to force him into reviving Madara. Obito resists and instead seals the 10 Tails inside himself, becoming its Jinchuriki. Birth of the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. Although Madara is frustrated by this, Hashirama is now free, allowing Madara to force him into battle for 2 reasons: his desire to fight his rival once more, and his intention to challenge Obito and take over as the caster of the infinite Tsukuyomi. To accomplish the latter, Madara needs Senjutsu Chakra, which Hashirama possesses. As their battle continues, Hashirama urges Madara to delay his plans, but Madara refuses again and again. Despite fighting, he still keeps track of Obito's growing mastery over the 10 Tails' power. After Obito is defeated, Madara is restrained by Hashirama's wood dragons, and the Alliance moves in to try sealing him. With Obito no longer the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, Madara activates another failsafe. Black Zetsu, who has been connected to Madara ever since his initial reincarnation, is instructed to seize Obito's body and use the outer path, Samsara, of Heavenly Life technique. Restored to life, Madara regains his full original strength and breaks free from his restraints. Because Madara died with his real eyes intact and removed from his body, his reincarnated eyes crumble into dust. Sasuke tries to burn Madara with Amaterasu, and Naruto reminds him that Madara can absorb ninjutsu. Madara discards his armor burned by the flames to compensate for his temporary blindness. He then immobilizes Hashirama with black receivers and absorbs his senjutsu chakra, enhancing his sensory perception enough to sense enemies and their attacks without sight. Sasuke attacks again, but Madara orders him to stand aside, stating that he has no desire to kill a fellow Uchiha. Madara then pursues the freed-tailed beast to revive the 10 tails again. He attempts to take on all 9 at once, fails, and loses his right arm in the process. While Regitsring himself, a white Zetsu clone, brings him one of his Rinnegan that Obito stored away, Madara takes the eye and also attaches one of the clone's arms, beginning round 2. He summons the demonic statue from Obito's body and uses Limbo, border jail, to knock back the 9 beasts before they can recover. He seals all of them into the demonic statue, including the portions sealed inside Naruto and B. While the statue begins transforming back into the 10 tails, Madara asks the Zetsu clone how Black Zetsu is progressing in retrieving his remaining Rinnegan from Obito Tobirama Senju, resurrected alongside Hashirama, attacks Madara immediately but is restrained after failing to deal any damage. Sasuke also attacks Madara but is immobilized midair. Having already warned Sasuke once, Madara turns Sasuke's own sword against him and stabs him in the chest. With nobody left to oppose him, Madara seals the 10 tails into himself once its resurrection is complete. Pleased with the outcome, he sets off to recover his other Rinnegan. Along the way, he spits out the Benihisago and the Kohaku no Johei, which Obito used during his premature revival method. When Madara reaches Black Zetsu's location, he finds that Obito has regained control of his body. Madara tries to reason with him, reminding him of their plans and insisting on the inevitable success of the Eye of the Moon plan. Instead of being persuaded, Obito stabs Madara and steals fragments of the One Tails and Eight Tails chakra before escaping with Naruto through Kamui. While Madara considers his next move, he is confronted by Might Guy, a master of Taijutsu and one of the only fighters capable of harming Madara, in his new form. Guy opens all 8 gates and hits Madara with the Evening Elephant. Madara is caught off guard and tries to defend himself, but allied shinobi reduce him to a single truth-seeking ball, leaving him exposed. Madara, thrilled by the challenge, though severely damaged but not defeated, forces Guy to use the Night Guy. This attack nearly kills Madara, erasing the entire left side of his body. Thanking Guy for such an entertaining battle and acknowledging him as a worthy opponent, Madara decides to honor him by killing him rather than letting him die from his own technique. However, the truth-seeking ball he fires is kicked back at him by a revived Naruto, whom Madara immediately notes has gained power similar to his own. Naruto sends Madara crashing through the recreated 10 tails in its giant tree form, left behind from Obito's earlier fight. A voice speaks to Madara, urging him to absorb it. Madara complies and becomes stronger, but now faces a new issue. Sasuke, fully healed and newly empowered, has joined Naruto. Despite all Madara's efforts, he can do nothing against the two, knowing he needs his other Rinnegan to end the fight. Madara steals Kakashi Hatake's Magekyo Sharingan and uses it to pursue Obito. He stops Sakura Haruno from destroying the Rinnegan, prompting Obito to send her back to the real world before Madara can kill her. However, Obito himself is far too weakened to resist. Wanting to leave Obito with final words, Madara first congratulates him for removing the forbidden individual curse tag he had implanted in him. Madara then reveals his role in Rin Nohara's death, admitting that he had been manipulating Obito from the very beginning. With that, Madara retrieves his Rinnegan and returns Obito's left Magekyo Sharingan to him. Black Zetsu then uses Obito's body to activate Kamui, bringing them all back into the real world. As soon as Madara appears, Naruto and Sasuke move in to attack, so Madara stalls them. By launching multiple Chibaku Tensei, Madara gains the necessary proximity to the moon, awakening the Rinne Sharingan in the process, and successfully casts the infinite Tsukuyomi Kaguya Otsutsuki attacks. The entire world becomes trapped in a dream before being wrapped into Madara's god. Nativity of a World of Trees. Sasuke manages to save Naruto, Kakashi, and Sakura from the infinite Tsukuyomi. Seeing them, Madara proclaims himself the savior of the world, claiming that he has rescued humanity from its own suffering by replacing the torment of reality with the paradise of dreams. But while he is celebrating his victory, Black Zetsu suddenly stabs him from behind. Black Zetsu reveals that it is not Madara's will being carried out, but Kaguya Otsutsuki's, and that he has been using Madara all along to orchestrate her revival. Black Zetsu then transfers from Obito's body into Madara's, completely enveloping him and forcing him to absorb the chakra of everyone trapped within the infinite Tsukuyomi. After swelling massively in size, Madara's form shrinks down until a fully revived Kaguya emerges in his place. Naruto and Sasuke eventually seal Kaguya, along with Black Zetsu, in her own dimension, after which she reverts into the Ten Tails and expels Madara's body. The Sage of Six Paths summons Madara and everyone else back into the real world, but even he cannot save Madara from his impending death. Caused by having both the tailed beast and the demonic statue torn out of his body, Madara uses his last moment speaking to Hashirama, acknowledging that his own vision for peace has died, while Hashirama's has endured, and therefore must have been the better of the two. Hashirama responds that they remain friends despite everything, and Madara accepts this as he finally passes away. Legacy. In death, Madara Uchiha's shadow continued to shape the world he had once tried to control. His greatest influence endured through Obito Uchiha, who inherited Madara's knowledge, ideals, and plan. Using Madara's teachings, Obito created the Otsutsuki, a group that would plunge the Shinobi world into chaos. Years later, when Obito began operating under Madara's name, the legend itself became a weapon. The mere belief that the real Madara Uchiha had returned was enough to terrify nations, unite the 5 great shinobi countries, and ignite the 4th Shinobi World War. Yet Madara's legacy was not one of unity, it was one of division. His rebellion against Konoha during his lifetime forever changed the fate of the Uchiha clan. Tobirama Senju, wary of another uprising, enforced policies that isolated the Uchiha even further. Ironically, Tobirama leadership was shaped by Madara's example. He believed that a true Hokage must find balance between Hashirama compassion and Madara's ruthlessness. To the Uchiha, this isolation seemed like proof of what Madara had always warned them about, that peace built on trust would never last. Although these fears subsided for a time, they resurfaced years later when Obito, acting once again in Madara's name, unleashed the Nine Tails upon Konoha. In the aftermath, suspicion and hatred toward the Uchiha deepened, and the clan's resentment grew. Eventually, that resentment turned into rebellion. When the Uchiha began plotting a coup against Konoha, the village elders responded with silent cruelty, ordering the clan's extermination. Thus, even in death, Madara's influence reached across generations, shaping destinies through fear and mistrust. Yet one part of his legacy endured in peace: the name Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves, a symbol of the dream he and Hashirama once shared, a dream that, for a fleeting moment, had united the world. Personality. Madara's childhood was shaped by the era he grew up in. Constant warfare molded him into a perfectionist who refused to stop until he mastered whatever he set his mind to. His victories on the battlefield made him extremely confident in his abilities and natural talent. Whenever these parts of his personality were challenged, usually by Hashirama, Madara's competitive nature would surface. Madara didn't dislike Hashirama's influence. In fact, he believed that the only way to survive in the shinobi world was to form alliances with former enemies. His bond with Hashirama is often credited with preventing Madara from falling fully victim to the Uchiha's curse of hatred, or at least suffering from it far less than Izuna did. Even when Madara claimed he had abandoned their friendship, he subconsciously continued to hold on to it. Madara's decisions and beliefs were centered entirely on protecting Izuna, his only surviving brother. As long as Izuna was alive, Madara remained reasonable and compassionate, willing to make compromises for what he believed to be the greater good. Izuna's death changed everything. Madara became embittered toward the Senju, especially Hashirama, who still had a brother of his own. Fully embracing his clan's curse of hatred, Madara chose revenge over compromise or forgiveness. Although he was briefly convinced to set aside his grief and try to fill Izuna's absence with the larger family of Konoha, he could never shake the feeling that he was betraying Izuna's memory. The increasing political isolation of the Uchiha within the village only deepened this belief, causing him to sever all remaining attachments. During his years as a Konoha shinobi, Madara acted according to what he felt best served the village. But unlike Hashirama's compassionate leadership, Madara's approach was ruthless. He believed that shinobi from Iwagakure only had value so long as they pledged unwavering loyalty to Konoha. Their drastically different philosophies made Madara resentful of hearing Hashirama's name mentioned during diplomatic discussions. After defecting from Konoha, Madara priorities focused entirely on the Eye of the Moon plan. He manipulated countless individuals to advance his aims and established layers of contingencies to ensure no one could deviate from his intentions. Despite his actions, Madara genuinely believed that the plan would benefit the world, embracing the idea that the ends justify the means. Because he valued power above all and possessed an overwhelming amount of it, Madara disliked wasting it on unworthy causes or weak opponents. He loved battle more than anything else, the sights, the sounds, even the taste of his own blood. He often described combat as a dance. Being reincarnated, he felt, robbed him of the full experience, but even so, he remained extremely disciplined. He stayed calm when plans failed, unfazed by superior numbers or power, and always willing to do whatever was necessary to win. Although he occasionally imposed restrictions on himself, such as not using certain techniques more than once, he was also willing to resort to unrefined or overwhelming tactics if it meant gaining an advantage. He was fully aware of his own strength and never pretended otherwise, openly stating when he was superior and mocking opponents who continued to resist him. However, if proven wrong, or if someone genuinely challenged him, Madara would acknowledge it and even apologize for earlier remarks. And if such a worthy opponent was about to die, he showed them the highest respect by personally delivering the finishing blow, even if they were destined to die anyway. For the same reason, he felt insulted when opponents refused to fight at full strength, even if doing so would guarantee their deaths. He also held the Senju to higher expectations of power because of his long rivalry with Hashirama, claiming that a weak Senju disgusted him more than any weak shinobi. Hashirama himself was the one major exception Madara ever made. Their years of rivalry left him with a complex mixture of deep respect and profound resentment. Madara considered Hashirama the only opponent truly worthy of his time and would willingly delay his own plans if it meant extending their battles. Despite this, Madara was not close-minded. He openly acknowledged other strong individuals besides Hashirama, such as when he declared Might Guy to be the greatest taijutsu user he had ever faced. For all his intelligence and power, Madara was not immune to recklessness. After being revived, he showed no hesitation in absorbing Hashirama Senjutsu chakra, despite admitting he expected to struggle with controlling it due to having no prior training. As he continued developing the Eye of the Moon plan, Madara grew pessimistic about human nature, believing the cycle of conflict to be unavoidable. He concluded that the world could not change from its past, and that reality was built too heavily on the concept of winners and losers. Because of this, he committed himself fully to his plan, willing to cut short even the battles he enjoyed or kill any threat, including members of his own clan, to ensure success. Yet, Madara still acted based on what he believed would benefit humanity, demonstrating that his time in Konoha had influenced him. He was not driven solely by bloodlust, though Izuna death had drastically reshaped his worldview. With the failure of his ultimate plan, Madara finally recognized its flaws. He broke free of his curse of hatred and admitted that Hashirama's vision for peace was superior to his own. In the moments before his death, the two were finally able to reconcile their friendship. Abilities. Madara was one of the most powerful shinobi in history, widely regarded as the strongest Uchiha ever born. Even decades after his death, his name alone carried fear and influence. A prodigy since childhood, he had already killed several adult Senju before he had even awakened his Sharingan. He was the only person capable of pushing Hashirama Senju, the god of shinobi, to his absolute limits. When Obito operated under Madara's name, the fear of Madara's supposed return forced the 5 great shinobi countries and even the neutral land of Iron to unite. As noted, Madara's very name was synonymous with power. Madara himself was capable of defeating both the 5 Kage and all 9-tailed beasts on his own. He was also confident he could overpower Obito, even when Obito became the 10 tails Jinchuriki, something the entire allied shinobi forces had needed to fight collectively, chakra, and physical prowess. Even among the Uchiha, Madara was born with extraordinarily strong chakra, described as foul and evil, partly due to inheriting Indra's chakra. His massive reserves allowed him to fight continuously for 24 hours before finally collapsing. Even in his old age, he could summon the demonic statue of the Outer Path from its prison on the moon. His chakra control was equally impressive. He could perform complex techniques with a single hand seal. He could also absorb and synchronize Senjutsu chakra rapidly, entering Sage mode despite having no formal training. Even when dividing his chakra among 25 wood clones, each clone remained powerful enough to threaten the 5 Kage. Taijutsu. Madara's Taijutsu was exceptional against the 4th Division. He effortlessly defeated thousands using only physical combat. He displayed extraordinary agility, reflexes, and coordination, able to disarm, evade, and counter attacks coming from multiple angles at once. His strikes were so precise and fast that most opponents could not react in time, and he could overpower enemies twice his size. He was even fast enough to land attacks on Naruto, while Naruto was in Sage mode body modifications. Upon reincarnation, Kabuto Yakushi enhanced Madara even further, restoring him to his physical prime while allowing him to retain the abilities he possessed later in life. A pale replica of Hashirama's face was present on Madara's left pectoral region, serving as a conduit for Senjutsu chakra and enabling him to enter Sage mode. This also granted rapid healing, allowing him to recover from most injuries within seconds and to use wood release. For severe damage such as losing a limb, Madara could replace it using material from a white Zetsu's body. Because of Hashirama's cells in him, Madara's life force was so strong that he did not die immediately even after having all 9-tailed beasts extracted ninjutsu. Madara was proficient in an extensive range of ninjutsu. He could use fuinjutsu, capable of restricting a target's movements, merge into surfaces to avoid damage, and travel undetected across the battlefield. Through an unconventional use of the shadow clone technique, he could even fake his own death by letting a clone act as his corpse. In the anime, Madara was also shown levitating. As a sensor ninja, Madara could detect chakra signatures from countries away, identify a person's clan, and Kekkei Genkai traits, and even distinguish between species enhanced by Sage mode. His sensory perception became so refined that he could continue fighting while blind, tracking opponents, dodging attacks, and even evading a flying thunder god, Slash. Additionally, his Sage mode heightened his pain tolerance significantly. He did not flinch when Sasuke stabbed his right arm, nor during the tailed beast's assault, nor even during the loss of his limb. Bukijutsu. Madara was skilled with a wide variety of weapons, including giant shuriken, a kama, weighted chains, a kusarigama, and handheld shuriken. He also demonstrated proficiency with swords while fighting the 4th Division. His signature weapon, however, was his gunbai, which he used to shield himself, redirect attacks, or wield like a mace or flail. With it, he could even slice through the massive roots of the Ten Tails tree form, nature transformation. Madara was capable of using all 5 basic nature transformations, as well as yin release, yang release, and yin-yang release. As an Uchiha, he naturally excelled in fire release, producing enormous flames that required several water release users working together to extinguish. He could fire volleys of dragon-shaped fireballs or blanket an area with ash to serve as a smokescreen. In the anime, Madara was also shown creating powerful gusts of wind with his gunbai, strong enough to repel entire platoons. Later in life, he used yin-yang release to strengthen white Zetsu and infuse his will into black receivers, allowing him to restrain and control his targets. After implanting Hashirama's DNA, enhanced even further by Kabuto, Madara gained the ability to use wood release, a combination of water and earth chakra. His skill and power with the technique were comparable to Hashirama's. He could create massive flowering trees that rendered opponents unconscious, produce wood clones, and summon wood dragons capable of binding enemies and draining their chakra. With Hashirama's cells, Madara could also grow roots that connected to and granted him partial control over the Ten Tails. After becoming the Ten Tails Jinchuriki himself, he could use yin release to generate lightning bolts, and storm release, a mixture of water and lightning chakra, to fire energy beams powerful enough to slice through Six Paths rods. Sharingan. Madara awakened his Sharingan in childhood, marking him early as a prodigy of the Uchiha clan. At first, his eyes bore a single tomo, but constant exposure to life and death combat rapidly advanced them through their tomo stages until they fully matured by adulthood. His Sharingan was nearly always active, a testament to his immense chakra reserves and perpetual combat readiness. His mastery of the Sharingan outclassed that of nearly all other Uchiha, including later prodigies like Itachi and Shisui. He could distinguish instantly between shadow clones, wood clones, and originals, detecting subtle differences in chakra and behavior that others would miss. This made almost any deception involving clones ineffective against him. Through direct eye contact, he could cast potent genjutsu to paralyze opponents or disrupt their sensory input, making close-range engagements particularly dangerous. He also used his Sharingan for instantaneous silent communication, coordinating tactics without spoken words. Perhaps his most infamous feat with the Sharingan was subjugating Kurama, the Nine Tails. By forcing the beast under his control and summoning it as a living weapon, Madara fought Hashirama at the Valley of the End with both his own strength and the power of a tailed beast, a testament to his unrivaled ocular dominance. His long-term planning with the Sharingan culminated in his pre-programmed use of Izanagi during his supposed death, sacrificing an eye to rewrite reality and survive, blurring the line between illusion and truth as part of his larger design. Magekyo Sharingan. Magekyo Sharingan Madara was the first Uchiha known to awaken the Magekyo Sharingan, evolving his eyes beyond their standard form. He quickly understood not only his own Mangekyo abilities, but also deciphered the techniques of other Mangekyo users with minimal observation. The straight Chokutomoe design of his eternal Mangekyo. Sharingan granted exceptionally fluid tracking and movement, making his combat motion smooth and deadly precise. With both Mangekyo awakened, he gained access to Susanoo, which he could manifest even without his eyes physically present in their sockets. The ribcage form of his Susanoo could withstand immense attacks such as an Ultra Big Ball Rasengan, and at full power he created a legged humanoid form armed with multiple curved blades capable of being thrown and mentally directed. His Susanoos could launch Yasaka Magatama in various sizes as devastating projectiles. When his sight began to fail from overuse, Madara implanted Izuna's eyes, achieving the eternal Magekyo Sharingan. This granted him restored vision and a fully stabilized Susanoo in its complete body form. A towering Tengu-like warrior clad in nearly impenetrable armor, with its additional set of arms wielding sheathed katana, it could bisect mountains with the shockwaves alone. Madara claimed its might rivaled that of the tailed beasts, and none were said to survive witnessing it twice. He could also merge Susanoo with Kurama, armoring the Nine Tails in spectral samurai armor, combining the destructive force of a tailed beast with the defense and weaponry of Susanoo other Taijutsu. After absorbing the God Tree and seizing Kakashi Hateke's Sharingan, Madara briefly used Kamui, a space-time technique normally exclusive to Obito's Mangekyo. He applied it to himself instantly, warping his body into Obito's dimension to retrieve his Rinnegan. This feat was especially notable because he performed it while already in the state of the Ten Tails Jinchuriki, a level of power that complicated delicate space-time manipulation. Obito himself had never used Kamui in that form, underscoring Madara's adaptability and raw control over foreign Taijutsu. Rinnegan. Years after implanting Hashirama's cells and unknowingly combining Indra's and Asura's chakra within himself, Madara's Sharingan evolved naturally into the Rinnegan, the legendary eyes of the Sage of Six Paths. As their original owner in that era, he could access their full potential and switch freely between Sharingan and Rinnegan. The Rinnegan granted him all forms of the Six Paths technique. He used the Preta Path to absorb chakra and ninjutsu, the Deva Path to manipulate gravity and launch powerful Chibaku Tensei, and the Outer Path to create black receivers and chakra chains capable of restraining all nine-tailed beasts simultaneously. Combined with his Sharingan, he summoned meteorites from the sky, causing continent-shaking devastation. While under impure world reincarnation, his Rinnegan abilities were partially limited, but after his true revival and retrieval of his actual eyes, he regained full control. He summoned and controlled the demonic statue of the Outer Path, sealed the tailed beast within it and later into himself, and created an invisible corporeal limbo shadow to fight parallel to him. In Sage Mode, strengthened further by Kurama's chakra, these limbo clones were strong enough to knock down tailed beasts. With both Rinnegan reclaimed, he could manifest multiple such shadows simultaneously, turning the battlefield into a multi-layered domain where enemies fought both seen and unseen threats. Rinne Sharingan. As the Ten Tails Jinchuriki with both Rinnegan restored, Madara approached the moon and awakened the Rinne Sharingan on his forehead, a fusion of the Rinnegan's ripples and the Sharingan's tomoe. This eye served as the key to the infinite Tsukuyomi. By reflecting its light off the moon, he cast a planet-wide genjutsu that ensnared nearly all living beings, suspending them in a shared dream. Only those protected by Six Paths power or sheltered by Susanoo managed to escape its reach. With a single technique, Madara realized the core of his Eye of the Moon plan, bending reality itself to his will. Jinchuriki Transformations. After sealing the Ten Tails inside his body, Madara gained full control over the beast immediately, unlike Obito, who initially struggled. This Ten Tails was stronger than before, empowered by the complete 8 tails and half of the 9 tails chakra, making Madara's presence even greater than Obito's prior Jinchuriki state. Only shinobi, empowered by Six Paths chakra, or those using the 8th gate, could contend with him. In this form, Madara could fly, and his physical attributes, speed, strength, and durability were greatly heightened. He reacted to the Flying Thunder God technique in Kamui, and survived Might Guy's Night Guy, an attack so intense it warped space and nearly killed him. After absorbing the Ten Tails tree form, his regeneration became extreme, allowing him to recover from being bisected and prompting him to call himself immortal. He could gather natural energy with ease, enhancing all his techniques. With the Rinne Sharingan activated, he cast the infinite Tsukuyomi, and then God, nativity of a world of trees, covering the earth with massive tree structures that bound those under the illusion. His transformation produced truth-seeking balls, orbs containing all 5 nature elements and yin-yang release. Madara used them as high-speed projectiles, shields, and weapons such as a shakujo. They could nullify any ninjutsu they touched, making conventional attacks nearly useless against him. Intelligence. Madara's intellect was as formidable as his power. Raised in the perpetual conflict of the Warring States period, he honed not just physical skills, but a razor-sharp tactical mind. On the battlefield, he could instantly analyze enemy formations, assess jutsu, and devise multiple strategies in response. The longer a fight continued, the less he relied on contingency plans, not out of arrogance, but because his real-time analysis allowed him to predict and preempt enemy actions. He read opponents through their chakra flow, body language, and emotional shifts, exploiting both technical weaknesses and psychological fractures. His knowledge of bloodlines, village techniques, and clan histories meant he was rarely surprised. Unfamiliar jutsu were quickly dissected and countered. Beyond combat, Madara was a long-term strategist and manipulator. He turned the near-dead Obito into his successor, teaching him not only advanced ninjutsu, but also ideological manipulation, infiltration, and grand-scale planning. Obito's later actions as the Masked Madara were a direct extension of this mentorship. As a researcher, Madara's understanding of chakra biology and forbidden techniques rivaled leading medical nin. Using the demonic statue, he cultivated artificial life forms, extended his lifespan, and developed white zetsu as tools and prosthetics. He performed complex eye transplants and body modifications with precise understanding of their long-term effects. This combination of scientific insight, battlefield cunning, and psychological mastery made Madara not just a powerful shinobi, but one of the most dangerous minds the Shinobi world ever produced. Intelligence. Madara's years of experience on the battlefield sharpened his strategic brilliance. He could quickly devise multiple approaches to a problem and seamlessly switch between them as needed. The longer he fought against an opponent, the fewer backup tactics he required, as he could eventually predict their moves and identify both literal and psychological weaknesses to exploit. He was able to form and test his theories with precision, using even the smallest details to his advantage. In addition to his adaptability, Madara was highly knowledgeable about a vast range of individuals and their abilities, allowing him to recognize techniques and respond with the most effective countermeasures. Madara was also intelligence. Madara's years of experience on the battlefield sharpened his strategic brilliance. He could quickly devise multiple approaches to a problem and seamlessly switch between them as needed. The longer he fought against an opponent, the fewer backup tactics he required, as he could eventually predict their moves and identify both literal and psychological weaknesses to exploit. He was able to form and test his theories with precision, using even the smallest details to his advantage. In addition to his adaptability, Madara was highly knowledgeable about a vast range of individuals and their abilities, allowing him to recognize techniques and respond with the most effective countermeasures. Madara was also an exceptional teacher, single-handedly training the young Obito to become a formidable shinobi, comparable to himself in power. As a researcher, Madara experimented with and cultivated a clone flower through the demonic statue of the Outer Path. From this, he created a life support system to sustain himself. His extensive medical knowledge allowed him to transplant eyes, treat severe injuries, and replace destroyed body parts using white zetsu matter.